Right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. The Premier League season is officially underway, I suppose, as the fixtures have officially been released, and we're going to be going through some of the tastiest ones and some of the ones that have caught our eye. So we'll start off with the opening day of the Premier League season, which starts on Friday the 11th of August at 8 p.m. from Turf Moor under the lights as Vincent Kompany's Burnley host Pep Guardiola's treble winners in Man City at Turf Moor under the lights, like I said. And realistically speaking, I think it's fair to say City will more than likely win that one by, say, 2 or 3 goals. I can see City winning 3-0 already, to be honest, but it's an interesting spectacle, especially given the fact that, like I said, it's Vincent Kompany, former Man City legend, or current Man City legend, I should say. He's not just a former legend, you know what I mean? But, yeah, Vincent Kompany's Burnley going up against Man City at home in their first game back in the Premier League, and a completely new Burnley to what we remember them from under Sean Dyche when they previously got relegated in 2021. I think it'll be an interesting spectacle, although I do think City will win it fairly comfortably, to be honest. Then we move on to the Saturday as Arsenal kick off the Saturday 12th of August at 12:30 against Nottingham Forest at the Emirates Stadium. I think Arsenal will probably win that one fairly comfortably themselves, even though I do think Forest will be a lot better than they were last season. I think they will survive fairly comfortably in comparison to last season, and that will be the first game on TNT Sport, I do believe it is called. And yeah, Bournemouth versus West Ham 3 o'clock, Brighton versus Luton playing their first ever Premier League match at the Amex Stadium, and I think that'll be a really tough game for them because we all know what Brighton are capable of under Roberto De Zerbi, but I think the Luton fans will just embrace it, to be honest, and care little about the result, especially given the fact it is their first ever Premier League game and first ever Premier League away day, so that'll be an enjoyable experience down to the south coast for them. Everton versus Fulham, a decent home fixture to start the season for Sean Dyche against one of those mid-table teams. Sheffield United versus Crystal Palace. I think Sheffield United will win that one under Paul Heckingbottom, because there's always that one team in the Premier League that, let's say, no one expects to stay up really, and no one gives a chance, and everyone's like, oh, they'll finish bottom, no bother. Say, for example, like Bournemouth last season. I think this season it's Sheffield United. Maybe it's Luton, but I think Sheffield United are more likely to go down, in my opinion, than Luton are. And I think that team always plays a home game against the mid-table team. So say Sheffield United against Crystal Palace here, and they always win. And it was the same at Watford 2 years ago as well, if you remember. They played Aston Villa at home and won, I think, 3-1 or 3-2 at home in their first game of the season. I think Sheffield United, that has 2-0 Sheffield United written all over that one. Just a random prediction, really. But we move on. Newcastle versus Aston Villa 5:30 on the Saturday. That is going to be a decent atmosphere at St James's Park between two newly integrated European sides, Newcastle with the Champions League and Aston Villa with the Conference League, obviously, so that's going to be a decent game between two very decent teams. Sunday, the 13th of August, this is where it gets interesting. This is where it gets super, super spicy, I suppose. Brentford versus Tottenham, 2 o'clock on the Sunday, and that has Brentford 3-1 written all over it. And to be honest, as far as being thrown into the firing line is the case, I mean, Ange Postecoglou really is being thrown into the firing line here. Brentford away for your first game on 2 o'clock on a Sunday. I mean, that is a loss written all over. That's a loss set up for you, and that is going to be a really, really tough baptism of fire for Ange Postecoglou as Spurs manager. Like I said, I think Brentford will win that one, and to be honest, that would be a tough fixture for literally any team in this league. The first game of the season, Brentford away. But Chelsea versus Liverpool 4:30. As you can see, you might be able to tell I'm a Chelsea fan, but we play Liverpool at home in Mauricio Pochettino's first game in charge of the club, in his first game at Stamford Bridge, and I'm going to try and do absolutely everything I can to get to this one, because I think the atmosphere and the whole vibe around the game is going to be absolutely sensational, to be honest. And I mean, if we can get a win in this one, it would be an absolutely ridiculous and incredibly important start to Pochettino's tenure as Chelsea manager, and could give us something of a snowball effect early doors from the get-go, because there's going to be a little bit of pressure under Pochettino from the word go, given the fact that he's a Spurs man coming into Chelsea. I don't buy into all that bullshit, but you just know for a fact a lot of Chelsea fans will do. I think that'll be a very important game for us I think that would be a massive win for us if we can get a win in that game to, create the good vibe from the word go. And we have got a winnable, run of games after that, in terms of the fact that I'm not going to jump the gun, actually. First and foremost, I'll talk about Man United and Wolves on the Monday Night Football, which you'd expect United to get a win in at Old Trafford fairly comfortably on the opening day of the season. And it is the first time, fun fact, that there has been a Friday Night Football and a Monday Night Football on the same weekend on the opening day of the season. So there's a new fun fact for you with regards to the Premier League. But like I said, I think in terms of Chelsea, and that game against Liverpool, if we win that one, to get the spark and the momentum going from the word go in a massive game against a team that you would say will be, like us, I would say, to a certain extent, pushing Man City all the way in the Premier League title race next season. Then we've got West Ham away on the second game of the season. I'm going to completely contradict myself because I think we will lose that one just because it's West Ham away, and that's the game that we lose literally every single season. Then we have a few winnable games. We've got Luton at home, we've got Nottingham Forest at home, we've got Bournemouth away. Yes, a bogey game for us, but I think given the fact we won there last season gives us a little bit of optimism going into that one, and potentially Bournemouth with second season syndrome, you never know. Aston Villa at home then, and Fulham away. So I think we've got some decent winnable games to get a little bit of a snowball effect going under Mauricio Pochettino early doors. So I think that Liverpool game could prove pivotal in building that snowball effect early doors and just getting the good vibe and the good atmosphere around Chelsea Football Club with regards to the relationship between Pochettino and the fans from the get-go. So I think that'll be an absolutely a crucial game for us, and what a game, what a spectacle that's going to be, and what an atmosphere it proves to be at Stamford Bridge that day. You just know for a fact it's going to be absolutely bouncing with that element of a fresh start as well, and hopefully a few new players in the door. But then we go on to just a few other teams that I wanted to pinpoint for their start to the season, because I think the start of the season for pretty much every team, especially if you're a team with a new manager, is going to be it's going to be crucial to look at, really. And I'm going to look at Spurs under Ange Postecoglou. I did a video on Ange Postecoglou and how I think he'll fare at Spurs and how I think he'll set up tactically at Spurs. If you want to go and check that one out after this video. I think it's going to be one hell of a start for Ange Postecoglou. I really do. I mean, first of all, like I said, that Brentford away game is going to be so tough. I think it's set up for a loss. Their first home game of the season, on the second game of the season, Manchester United at home. Eric Ten Hag's Man United, who are going to be improved from last season, you'd imagine, by that stage, and that's going to be a really, really tough first home game. Bournemouth away then third, and like I'll go on to in a minute with Bournemouth, they've got a really, really tough game and run of games at the start. I think they have to play, is it Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City and Man United away from home in their first 6 games. I think that could be the case. I could be wrong in saying that, but I mean, if that is the case, I mean, what a first 6 games of the season, and I think points are going to be few and far between for Bournemouth in the first few games, so that might be one that they, law of averages, win. Spurs then fourth game, Burnley away, and I've said this since the dawn of time in the Premier League, that every single season within the first 3, 4, 5 games of the season there's always one newly promoted team that plays against a top 6 team at home and wins, and maybe this will be the fixture this time around, maybe it won't be, but it's not good to play the newly promoted teams in the first 5 games away from home as far as I'm concerned, and Spurs unfortunately do that with Burnley away from home. Then they play Sheffield United at home on the 16th of September. You'd imagine they'd have to win that one, law of averages. That'll be the one they'd be pinpointing to get 3 points. And then they go to Arsenal away on Saturday the 23rd of September, although you would imagine it'll be Sunday the 24th of September because it will be more than likely a Super Sunday game, that one. But then they play Liverpool at home the next weekend. I mean, just then Luton away. I mean, that's a 1-0 Luton written all over it, honestly. So Ange Postecoglou could be under savage pressure at Spurs, after the first few games, because I really, really do think it doesn't get much more difficult than that for Postecoglou. So I think it's going to be an interesting one to see if Spurs fans will stick behind him, and I hope they do, because I do like Postecoglou and I think he will do a good job there if he's given the time and if he's given the backing from the fans on the board for the first season anyway. Because like I said in that video on Postecoglou, I think the first season is going to essentially be a free hit for him because he's got so much to do, and in a Spurs team that are in the gutter, mentality wise, I think it's going to be a really, really tough job for him, and I think it doesn't get as tough as that really for Ange Postecoglou, or I think it doesn't get tougher than that, I should say. My bad, it was actually Nottingham Forest who have the absolute nightmare run of form in their first 6 games. So they go to Arsenal in their first game of the season, then they host Sheffield United, which should be a winnable game for them, then they go to Man United, they go to Chelsea, and then they host Burnley. Should be a decent enough winnable game, you suppose, a 6-pointer, I suppose, and then they go to Man City. And I mean, that is going to be a really, really tough start to the season for Nottingham Forest under Steve Cooper. But as I said, I think they should be more equipped this season to stay up more comfortably than they were last season. So, and one thing that I'm just going to mention that I don't think is great, considering, from a neutral fan's perspective, is the fact that Man City have a decent enough start to the season. When you think of Burnley on the opening day of the season, they will more than likely win that one fairly comfortably, in my opinion. Then they host Newcastle, going to be a really tough game, but you'd imagine, given the fact they're at home, it's their first home game, that they will get over the line in that one. Sheffield United away, which more than likely they will win once again, even though on paper that is a tougher game than we'll be given credit for, especially given the fact that, like I said, a top 6 team going away from home to one of the newly promoted teams. Then they play Fulham at home, should be a routine 3 points for them. Then they play West Ham away, going to be a tough enough game, but you'd imagine they'd win that one because I think City do have a good record at West Ham, if I am correct in saying. Then they play Forest at home, should be a winnable game for them. Then they go to Wolves, should be a winnable game for them. Then they play Arsenal away, actually, on the 7th of October. Whether that'll be the 7th of October or the 8th of October on the Sunday remains to be seen. But yeah, you know what? I take that back to a certain extent because City's run-in at first glance looked a lot more difficult than it was, or than it is, I should say now. But I still think that City, obviously, with the fact they're City, should be winning the majority of those games. So to be honest, I'd be really surprised if anyone other than City won this league next season. I think United will be up there. I think Liverpool will be up there. I think Arsenal should be up there. Potentially Newcastle, if they can get their transfer business right this summer and can improve on the absolutely magnificent season they had last season. And I think Chelsea should be up there and thereabouts as well. But I think Chelsea's main objective will be for the top 4. But I think if there's a portion of the season we could maybe compete for the title, I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. But yeah, I just can't see anyone taking this title away from City. But not that matters in this video because that's a predictions video. That's for a whole nother video. But yeah, another interesting one. We'll run through the final games of the season because that's always an interesting one to see who's playing who on the final day of the season, given the fact that the title race might be up for grabs. It probably won't. The relegation battle might be up for grabs. It probably will. And the top 4 race the same, obviously. So we will have a look. The 19th of May, Sunday the 19th of May, 2024. Right, so Arsenal at home to Everton. A decent game for them if they have anything to play for. Brentford against Newcastle at the Brentford Community Stadium. Brighton at home to Man United. That's going to be a tough game for Man United if they've got anything to play for, especially if Brighton have something to play for themselves. Burnley, Nottingham Forest at Turf Moor. A decent game for both those teams who could potentially be in a relegation battle. I know I've said Forest will be out of there, but obviously you never know. It's just a random prediction at this early point in the season where it hasn't even, the transfer window hasn't even started yet, really. Chelsea versus Bournemouth at Stamford Bridge. Going to be an interesting game. Chelsea, a very winnable game if we've got anything to play for. Palace versus Aston Villa. Probably one of those games where there'll be nothing to play for either of those teams. Liverpool at home to Wolves. I feel like Liverpool play Wolves on the final game of literally every season, or literally every second season. Luton at home to Fulham. That could be a decent game for Luton, given the fact that Fulham, once again, if they're not in the relegation battle with second season syndrome, which you'd imagine they wouldn't be, won't have that much to play for, and that's a Kenilworth Road as well. So if Luton have survival in their sights going into that game, that'll be a very, very winnable game for them to get over the line. City at home to West Ham in the final game of this season. Probably the game they're going to be lifting the title, the trophy on, let's be honest. And Sheffield United at home to Spurs. Not a bad away game to have for Sheffield United if they have relegation or survival, in their sights on the final game of the season. Obviously, it depends a lot on, the teams like Spurs and what they have to play for, so it's pretty irrelevant going through them now, but it's just interesting to see, given, there'll be certain things to play for on the final day when you think of the title race, relegation battle, top 4 race, etc., or even the Europa League, Conference League places, to see who's playing who in the final game of the season and who will have be in the best stead to get over the line for their certain objectives in the final game of the season. But yeah, that's pretty much all. So yeah, if you did like this video, leave a like on the video. It would be absolutely massively appreciated. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're looking to hit 3,000 subscribers on this channel as soon as we possibly can, and turn on that notification bell if you never want to miss one of these absolutely fucking quality videos. Said absolutely no one ever. But yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. Thanks very much for watching, and yeah, I'll chat to you later.